Hello, everyone. We are live. So, this is the launch of my Wellness Wednesday series on YouTube. And I have been wanting to do this for a while. We were trying it out on Instagram, but I think it's a better fit on YouTube. And it's just an opportunity because of the alliteration Wellness Wednesday. And my channel is for wellness business owners. So the idea is to interview some experts, some wonderful people that I know in my network or that I have come across who are offering some great wellness services to people and really helping out make an impact with their wellness services. And so I'm introducing you to these people that I think you can find some benefit from. And also, we're going to talk about how they are using video in their business because of course, what I offer is video marketing coaching as well as video production. And specifically for wellness businesses, that is my passion. I love everything to do with specifically holistic wellness. So I see that Mira is here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her in. Right before I do, I just want to tell you a little bit about Mira. I'm not going to read the full bio. You can read her bio below. But I want to let you know I've known Mira for a little while now. She's in Australia. I'm just so grateful. It's very early in the morning for her, and she has made it here to be with us wherever you are in the world. For me, it's Wednesday afternoon on the Pacific Coast. But Mira is an embodied resilience coach, and she helps women and men heal from trauma. She has a background, a long history in yoga, and she has now studied therapy, and she's really integrating what she has learned from yoga as well as therapy modalities with helping people overcome stress and, stop these stress patterns that we create in our lives and heal from past traumas. So she will get into all of this, and then we're going to go into helping her out with her YouTube channel with a little bit of live coaching. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring on Mira. Hello.
Hello. It's great to see you. I might do a little bit of an adjustment here. There we go.
Yes, it's great to see you, Mira. You look wonderful. How early is it in the morning where you are?
It's 7 a.m. It's 7 a.m. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. The tricks of a bit of makeup and a nice bit of light, right?
Exactly. And
I'm
really honored that you're taking the time, to just like be up so early and just be here for us on Wednesday in the US. But yeah, I've really been looking forward to this interview.
Me too.
So yeah, I think first of all, I just gave a little introduction, about your work. But I would love for you to share, just for our audience to understand, what your journey has been. I know you have a lot of experience and practice in yoga modalities. And I'm really curious to hear your journey on, going from yoga to all the way to helping people in coaching and overcoming trauma.
I'd love to talk about that with you, Sarah. And it was funny. So firstly, it's okay. I get up pretty early anyway. Part of my wellness practices is early morning practice and meditation. And while I was meditating this morning, I had this thought come in, which they do still come in when you meditate. They just seem to come in a little slower. And it was that, and this is really key in my journey, the thought was meditation, you can't avoid emotional processing with more meditation. And that really speaks to what happened in my journey. So I grew up with a very spiritually based background. My parents were in a spiritual community in India. And so that was I was bathed in that from a very young age, learned to meditate when I was 10 and went further in my own inquiries at a later age and brought in yoga. So in my kind of late teens and early 20s, I started doing that. But at the same time, I started having a lot of difficulties with my emotions, and I started having a lot of difficulties managing normal things in life as a result of how I was experiencing my emotions. I didn't have this kind of language for it then, or this kind of understanding for it then, but it was clear. And I tried to meditate more. And don't get me wrong, I still meditate a lot, and it's really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't help me in the ways that I needed with day-to-day functioning. And I'll give you an example of students in my yoga classes. Same thing. They'll be like, oh, I know what it is to connect with my body, and I know what it is to breathe better, and I know what it is to find more peace. But I got in my car, I drove home, and I yelled at my kid when I walked in the door. So there was this kind of disconnect that I was experiencing, and seeing others around me experience. And then I came across somatic and embodiment teachings. And for me, that they really bridge that gap, because they teach you, well, what happens when I do a yoga practice inside my neurobiology, inside my nervous system? And then how can I maybe do a smaller practice, literally 30 seconds, that does the same thing to my nervous system and allows me to calm down, allows me to regulate my emotions, and then to actually meet the moment. So, I don't have to go off for an hour and meditate, or half an hour and do yoga. I can do this quick little internal scan around what's happening in my nervous system, what's happening with my emotions, and then respond. That whole classic thing in the wellness world of respond rather than react became more of a possibility. And in understanding that those reactive states were not you being a bad person, but you being in a protective state, that compassion that brought into the whole thing was life-changing for myself. And I see it all the time with my clients as well. So that's kind of a little bit of a version of my story.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have so many questions, just going through your website, and of course, we're connected through a business coaching program, which I'm so grateful for. Just such a great community. And then of course, our wonderful mentor. But yeah, the question that comes up after just what you shared, this has been my experience as well. And
Right.
I've just recently started diving into somatic work. I recently learned about havening, which I never heard of. And I'm like, this is so simple. How can it work? But through my own journey, I also started to understand, doing meditation for over 2 decades and yoga, and just seeing, especially in the pandemic, like how the stress just can reach a certain level. And it's like, oh, I'm not wanting to react this way. And so I started to really kind of understand, or, I don't know where I gathered it from, but just probably in just talking and conversation to different people, that something was going on the unconscious level, and the trauma can be stored in our body. So this is what I've been looking forward to, having this conversation at, where we're at right now in the world. So many people are experiencing these levels of stress they've never experienced before. And so I wonder, how do we get started? What are some of the ways? Because I know you have a lot of simple techniques for people. So what would you offer to people as, just a way to get started in, relieving some stress that they're experiencing?
Well, it's funny. It's beautiful to hear you talk about this, Sarah, and I'm glad it was resonant. And your story was also resonant for me. I do want to take a slight detour for a moment, and then I'll answer that question. That was actually what got me into being a practitioner, was that somebody I knew in my circles, in my kind of wellness and healing circles, who lives in America. So I think it was a bit tougher for you guys. early in the pandemic than me in Perth, I'll say anyway, where, you know, it's tough for everyone everywhere, but we've had relative freedoms within our community. But she said to me, you know, I'm really resourced. I've done a lot of work over the years, but I exactly what you said, the stress, the capacity to resource herself to meet the degree of stress that was coming in just wasn't there. And so she reached out to me, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should start doing this as my work. And that was obviously a couple of years ago. And I started to. And I think that my favorite modality, if you like, it's not a framework, is the polyvagal theory. You may have come across it in your stuff. Yeah. So it's a little complex for people, but I do think if you can begin to find materials, and Deb Dana is the person who has turned the theory into clinical application and tools. So the reason I say this, even though it's, again, a little bit roundabout, it's hard to answer a question like that, Sarah, because everyone's different. So some people need to come in from more of an intellectual understanding, and that's a safer, it's all about, I'll say it, whatever is going to make you feel the most safe is key. And discovering that might be a little bit of a journey in the beginning. And that's why working with a practitioner is always helpful, because they can help you kind of identify that and notice, help you come out of the reactive patterns when you're going in. But I've noticed there's two main types of people who need to enter through the cognitive kind of understanding of it first and get the compassion of like, here's what's happening in my nervous system, or people who just want the tools or respond more to the actual somatic or, you know, physical experience. And so in terms of that, my actual favorite tool is kind of a blend of those, and it's called holding your brain in the palm of your hand. I think I've even shown you this one before, actually. So it's understanding, it's like having a map of your brain and nervous system on your hand with, here is your brainstem, here is your spine. And then here is your limbic system, which is in control of your emotions, sort of regulates your emotions and your internal alarm. And that gets tucked inside and gets wrapped in the cortex of the brain. And this is where the capacity to rationalize and reason and calm ourselves down. And when we do this, we're really making, I'm trying to see in the camera where I am, we're really making a very deliberate, is this going audio only as well, Sarah? I'm just thinking if I need to.
It possibly might, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just explain to people what I'm doing as well. I'm tucking my thumb inside of the rest of my fingers. And this allows you both things. So it will automatically already start to offer you a physiological experience of calming, of doing this. And it will also allow you that emotional and cognitive soothing through, I know what I'm doing here. It's okay what I'm feeling. Here's this part of me that's not feeling great, anxious, stressed, whatever. And rather than get anxious and stressed about feeling anxious and stressed, I'm going to offer it this integration. I'm going to offer it this calm. And you might add in a couple of breaths with that. Breath is the number one tool really to access and regulate the nervous system for most people. So doing that and taking a deep breath. This is the tool that I have found, to be honest, in my practice, has had the quickest impact for the most people. But as I said earlier, everybody's different, and there are three main ways that you can access regulating your nervous system through your physiology: sound, breath, and movement. And so as you begin to learn these different little tools, you experiment and you have a look at, well, if I rate how stressed I feel now, and then I do this tool and I rate how stressed I feel after, which one gives me the biggest impact? I'll start there. I'll use that one. So I don't get to, and that's what I will often guide people through in a session. Let's do 5 of these. I'm with you. I'll guide you. You can test out which one you feel has more of an impact, and I'll measure that with you. Okay, now and I don't call it homework, in your integration practice for the week, let's focus on that tool.
Wonderful. That is really beautiful. Just what you shared about the tailored approach. I really like that because, I try out all kinds of holistic modalities. But I don't know, there's just something that personally I've sensed, like the cognitive therapy isn't really for me. Like it gets you, to a certain point, maybe lowers the stress a little bit, but I just sense that it doesn't really heal my own past traumas, or really help me kind of reframe what I'm experiencing. Um, but what you shared was just a great reminder because, I don't have the understanding of what everybody else is looking for. And it's fascinating to me. I know that, I mean, this is just probably opening up a can of worms, but um, it's just fascinating to me that, there is a lot in our culture now about, oh, just do 5 minutes of yoga a day, your day will be so much better. Or yeah, just start to get that yoga practice. And a lot of people do really get into yoga and meditation. Um, and I'm just like fascinated with how this still isn't getting us, as you said, to um, the heart of what we need,
Mm.
to really be able to respond to our life. So,
Mm.
um, so yeah,
It's
I
really
guess.
interesting, Sarah. Yeah, because it's so nice that you've pointed to that, because my favorite mentors within the somatic world, and just as I was listening to you talk then and what I was reflecting on was like, yeah, it's really another tool that helps us to practically do what we're guided to in the scriptures, in the yoga scriptures or something like that, which is svadhyaya, which is self-awareness, basically, self-study, self-knowledge, right? So this is deep self-study to understand that as a individual self with my particular conglomeration of all the bits, of consciousness and physicality, and this is the way that I work. And I really have seen it. I've really seen it that for one person, a particular breath work exercise will have this effect, and for somebody else, it will have a completely different effect. And our tendency in the healing world prior to this, in my experience anyway, was like, no, it's meant to work. This is how it works.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true. And then people feel very invalidated in their experience and then don't, give up on their healing or
Mm-hmm.
various things. And so to understand that you have a framework which can show you, oh, well, this is what's going on. These are the different types of states that my nervous system go in. But my work and the work of people that I follow is all about tracking your own experience and creating your own maps. Okay, this is what triggers me. This is how I react to stress. This is what calms me down. And then you create the healing program, self-directed healing that actually works for you. And so in doing it with a practitioner, that's, again, advice I would give to people if I was to give any advice, is to work with someone who has that flexibility, who understands that, that you really need that customization. We really do. And, CBT is a classic one for doing that. This is how brains work. This is how people think. And this is how you can change how you think. And it's like, we've got to squeeze people into the model rather than create a model that's useful, to help people.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. This has just been something that's actually been on my mind a lot. Just not having a lot of familiarity with CBT. But yeah, just knowing that there is a mental health crisis, probably throughout the world, but definitely in the US at least, which is a very big country. So yeah, just kind of recognizing that, every person, we frequently say, every person is unique and everyone's like a snowflake. But then when it comes to mental health, most of the time, at least in the US, the insurance will only cover CBT therapy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
wonder
it's a bit of a passion. Sorry, I'll let you ask a question. Otherwise, I might jump on the soapbox for too long.
no, I mean, I wish, maybe we can one day, do a long interview, dive into it. Um, but for today, I would love to know just your basic framework. You talk about the customization, but I
Yeah.
know that you have a specific framework that you use, when you're
Yes.
working with specific clients.
Yes, which we developed with our beautiful mentor. So I'm still deciding on the name because I've got split votes amongst my audience and clients about which is the best name, embodied living or embodied resilience. But it's essentially, to me, it is a journey into both, into embodied living and into embodied resilience. And it begins with embodied, the transformational path, if you like, that I witnessed in myself and that I'm witnessing in clients was embodied loving, embodied living, embodied leading. Those are the titles of the phases. And what goes on in each phase is the embodied loving part is really learning some of what we've been talking about today. So understanding that, oh, there's nothing wrong with me and I'm not broken. My nervous system's working exactly as it's meant to, but I live in a world that has a degree of stress going on that a human organism's never had to deal with before. So the settings are a little off, and maybe I've got traumas, which again, because culturally we don't have rituals and community that helps us to actually process and resolve trauma. We've got all of this unresolved trauma. So we've got lots of stress, unresolved, so just stress, 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 stress.
Yeah.
So the nervous system is in overdrive, which it should be, it's doing its job. So rather than, oh my God, I'm a freak and this is terrible, it's like, no, your nervous system is doing exactly what it's designed to do in a very difficult context. So we start there with that compassionate understanding, and then being able to, for many people, there are quite intense sensations within the body that they've never really gone in and sat with. And most people develop some kind of addiction, to be frank, to avoid that, to deal with that. And the list is, huge. But essentially, how do I relieve the pain that I feel inside through something external, smoking, et cetera, a million different things, ways that we can do that. So bringing the compassion, then being able to sit through the beginnings of touching those sensations. And here I do bring in influence from somatic experiencing. So it's titrated, it's just small drops. It's not like plunging in, because that's what people fear, that they'll get overwhelmed. So, and then beginning to understand and map the stories a little bit. Well, what happened to dysregulate your nervous system to this degree? That's embodied loving. So that really understanding how to, and that's understanding where there may have been some gaps. And again, all respect to parents also living in very stressed circumstances, some gaps in what you really needed in your parenting when you were growing up that you're now going to have to fill in for yourself. That's stage one. Stage two then goes, okay, well, what is it to be a parent to yourself on a day-to-day basis? How do you practice day in, day out? And I use this analogy. I don't know if you watched that one in a video lately. I was like, at this stage, your level of commitment needs to be like the parent of a newborn. It doesn't matter if your eyeballs are hanging out your head. It doesn't matter what is going on. You get up and you take care of yourself. And that's hard. We haven't had that modeled to us. We haven't learned that. So, but I like to give people that image of, like, if you really want to change 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of conditioning in your nervous system and your brain, you will need to practice on a daily basis, conditioning, reconditioning it. But obviously in a way that feels good to you, because you will have worked out what's right for you. So at that stage, we can also do deeper healing work. So you might do revisiting traumatic memories, or you might look for beliefs, the stuck beliefs that are in there, unconscious contracts is what I call them, that my mentor, that we developed in childhood, and release some of those. So you've got the capacity, if that upsets you, deep therapeutic work sometimes can be quite upsetting to face that stuff. And what I notice can happen sometimes is, you can walk out of a therapy session just feeling like you've been ripped open, and what do I do now? And it takes days to kind of re-regulate. So I try to help people have the regulation tools first. So it's like, okay, you know how to stabilize yourself once you've taken yourself deep. So
Lovely.
doing that on a day-to-day basis, and people feeling much more courageous to do that deeper work when they know, okay, I can find my way back to a centered place. So that's, and then eventually, like, my aspiration is that they take over all this for themselves, right? So they develop that program that goes, well, what do I need to do on a daily basis to, and this takes me, actually, I'll go into the third phase. So then we go into, well, now you're not choosing your life directions and out of reactivity, out of fear. Now that fear is no longer, and stress are no longer in control of you,
Mhm.
what do you actually want for your life? So rather than jumping in and trying to make goals early in a coaching process with people, I do a lot of that establishment work so that the
Mm.
goals are really authentic, so that we're not just trying to, through what we're doing. So I referred to addictions earlier. We're not trying to still appease this discomfort and these feelings inside by people pleasing, by choosing the right career, doing the thing that we always thought we should do, et cetera, et cetera. So or avoiding things that make us uncomfortable, even though they are what we really want. So
Mhm.
we start to map that out. And then this is embodied leading, right? So this is taking these tools, taking this capacity that you've developed into your world, out into the world. It might be in your workplace, it might be in your relationships. It's that sense of like, you're able to do this. And now you not preach, you teach people, but you demonstrate this capacity. And you also lead within your own life. You make choices that are much more authentic for you. And then when you hit bumps, which you will, and maybe your trauma gets triggered again, because when you're expanding, as good as that is, as wonderful as it is to have goals and to go after really positive things, that can be registered as new, which can be a threat, which can create fear in the nervous system, and you're back into a trauma response. But now you know what to do. So rather than being taken out for days or weeks or months trying to find emotional balance again, maybe it's a couple of hours, and you're like, right, tool after tool. Yep. Okay. Saw what happened. And this is what I've witnessed in myself and others. So that's
Yeah.
basically what I guide people to do into embodied resilience.
Oh, that is so beautiful, Mira. I think it's really great what you created. I mean, I've never heard of it, and I do have a logical mind even though I'm creative, and the way you explain that, it just seems logical. Um
Mm,
and of course, it's based on experience, having some experience with the somatic work, experience in holistic modalities, and a little bit of experience with cognitive therapy. But I just really appreciate what you shared about, you know, regulating to overcome the fear.
mm,
And then you're setting goals.
mm.
Because I think often in personal development, in the mental health community, it is about what is your goal, and that's what the larger culture wants.
Mm.
And tell me if I'm understanding correctly, but you're really kind of uncovering how we can be in our body,
Yeah.
how we can be, stay in our body, and um, be connected to our most authentic self, no matter what circumstance. That's really what I'm hearing, with this framework.
Yeah, it's beautifully put, Sarah. And I probably hadn't worded it like that recently, but it is definitely part of my language. And it made me think, yeah, because the inauthentic goals, that's exactly what we do. What do we do in order to fulfill them? We drink heaps of caffeine, we get sleep deprived, we take lots of pharmaceuticals, we completely disconnect from our bodies and people. And that's why we've got issues with lots of chronic diseases and lifestyle diseases,
Mm-hmm.
because people are trying to override their inner world in order to make more money or get the right job or
Yep.
do whatever it is that culture and family and all of the systems have been telling them. And that's right. Like, how do you actually, when you do stay in your body and you are focused on how you're being, your choices will be very different. And you may make a conscious choice to stay in the same career. That's not at all what necessarily happens. Everyone changes everything.
Yeah.
But how you are inside it will change.
Yeah, and that's most important. I mean, it seems like that's what most of us are looking for with, whatever we're delving into in personal development, in, creating a meditation habit, etc. We're all just looking to be our most authentic self. And
And
yeah,
to feel better inside.
I wish it wasn't. I just want your work to get out there. That's why, I'm happy to do this interview and just like, spread the word. Like, let's have some kind of paradigm shift in how we're approaching our mental health and even just lowering the stress level. So thank you. Thanks for putting this together.
My absolute pleasure to be here. It's really, really wonderful to share and to share with you who gets it so much, from your own journey and your own experience.
Thank you. Yeah. So, well, let's see here. I know we are going to get into in just a minute the video coaching if you're still up for it.
Totally. I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know she was going to do that. Yes, I need that.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Doing something completely weird and, two things that don't usually go together, talking
I'm
about
all
trauma
and
yeah. We're going to do YouTube coaching. Why not?
Well, let me challenge you on that, because this is part of my goals, right? And you would work with this all the time, Sarah, and coaching people around being on camera and doing, being more visible and speaking up and all the things that get associated. To me, they're very linked. I use trauma resolution tools and trauma healing tools a lot to coach clients around stuff like this. So there's actually a beautiful link.
I love it. And, I don't have those same tools, which I'm very fascinated to learn. But I know that, yeah, there's a lot of ways in which people can get stuck with being visible, with being on camera. And it often isn't so simple. I mean, I definitely have ways that I can help people, which are more cognitive. But I think, yeah, I certainly would refer people to you if it's like, something that they know for themselves is keeping them stuck, and it's not gonna, they don't just need a little bit more motivation. So.
Well, thank you. That was not my point.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it over time, because I know in my coaching work, I haven't so much come across it yet. A lot of the people I work with, they are already at the point where they've done work on themselves and they're ready. But I know there are people out there, probably people even watching right now, leave a comment. There's no shame in it. We all are just on our journey, and, we can take what we know, get these little tips from people like myself about, stepping up to be visible. But sometimes we need this deeper work, which you offer, Mira.
Can I do another tiny detour, Sarah, on this?
Yeah.
Just when you said to reassure people, I want to tell the story. So one of the stories with applying the tools to this kind of area, performance kind of area, my personal credentials, if you like, that I developed came out of, only 2 years ago, I had played music for 20 years and never really performed, and always wanted to. I sing and write my own songs. And I went over the last 2 years, I did set a big goal. It was an authentic goal, but it was still a terrifying goal. It was absolutely terrifying. And the nervousness of getting up on stage and just sharing your voice and with people live. So I was like, I'm going to do it 100 times over the next couple of years. I haven't made it to 100. I made it to 55, but that was already very good. And I had to do that. So even though I'd done all this work, I was like, oh, I'm going into a new context and there's this whole bunch of new challenges and my nervous system is firing. Okay, I'm going to bring those tools over that I learned in that other area. I'm going to bring them and I'm going to practice applying them here so that my nervous system gets conditioned and familiar with them in this context. And that took some time, it really did. But it was like applying all of this to, okay, step on the stage and how do I regulate and how do I open to this experience? So absolutely reassure, and it's always there's always opportunity for deeper learning and growth, right?
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think I had seen in our Facebook group that you were a performer and a singer, and I would love to see your videos at some point. Of course,
maybe you'll advise me to bring that in as the strategy. So that part of the strategy.
Actually, that did just cross my mind, just in terms of sharing it, in your story. Because of course, I'm a big proponent of storytelling. And that is a part of your story, to let other people know, because as you said, there's a lot of people that are having the same experience. Maybe they're an aspiring actress or, or somebody that wants to build a YouTube channel. But yeah, definitely. I think that could be part of your video story. So let's see here. I'm going to just pop to your YouTube channel. And I already did look at it, of course. But let's see if we can share it here.
Yep.
For everybody watching, the link is below to Mira's YouTube channel.
Hi everyone, I'm Mira Rao. I'm a resilience and
that's your video.
That's the one.
Let's see if we can share the screen. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share it on this monitor. Perfect. Screen 2. Okay. Okay, so we're having an issue with StreamYard. It's asked me to go to system preferences. So I'm not going to take a moment to do that right now. I apologize. But I will just look over here at the screen.
Yep.
And, everyone else can also bring up your YouTube channel and just kind of see what I'm looking at. But of course, I know that you are doing a lot on Instagram, so everyone can check out your Instagram as well. Mira does a lot of really great, meaningful videos over there with, some of the tools we've talked about, as well as many other tips for helping you regulate your stress. Okay, so let's just I'm just looking at your homepage, Mira.
Yes.
So first off, you have done a wonderful job with your video marketing and your consistency
with
Instagram. And I see you've already started building your YouTube channel. And I think you are really ready, to grow from what I see, because you've already put a lot of effort into your videos. And I want to say that this video you have, it's called the Embodied Living Method. I think this is a wonderful video to have as your featured video. So I really compliment you on that it's Mira sharing her story. And so you get a really great overview of her story to becoming an embodied living coach. And then let's see. The only thing I would offer, as far as, the content is really wonderful. If you did want to update the video at all, if you feel motivated to do that, I would recommend keeping it to about 2 minutes. Of course, there's always going to be people, like the people that are watching this live stream at 39 minutes in, Thank you. You guys are really dedicated.
Thanks,
And
guys.
really appreciate everybody hanging in there. Of course, I'm going to be adding chapters to this live stream too. But yeah, most people will drop off after about 2 minutes. And you can probably see that on your Instagram videos, just across all social media. Usually, want to keep it a little bit shorter. Okay, so may I offer some feedback just on the branding on your channel?
Sarah, you just go for it, and you're being very gentle, and I just want to say you're being very gentle and kind, which is great, but you can give it all to me. So I haven't done much over there yet either. So it's quite, yeah, I will tell a funny, it was kind of like, I created a few things years ago, but then it was after a music performance. There were these teenage girls there that were like, oh, do you have a YouTube channel? We want to watch this. And I was like, oh, I bet it's, and then, so I did put some music up, but it's a long time ago and I've taken it down. So yeah, so feel free just to tell me everything. And if you've got time, I want to ask a couple of specific questions as well.
Sure. Okay.
Great.
All right. So the first thing I want to comment on is the thumbnails.
Yeah.
So I think you've got a good start with having a consistency with your branding. What I would recommend is making the text shorter and then making the font bigger. Because it is a little hard to read. I'm here on my desktop, and most people on YouTube are on their phone. So you want to be able to just kind of capture people's attention as they're scrolling. And so, they're seeing so much as they're scrolling on YouTube. So if you can shorten the titles and then increase the font, that will give people, they take like 2 seconds looking at that thumbnail. Oh, do I want to click on it? So that can help with your conversion rate. They call it, the click-through rate.
Yep.
And then that's really important because your click-through rate is so helpful when YouTube determines if they want to keep showing people your video. They want to, they call it the reach of your video. So this can show up in all kinds of places on YouTube. If someone's searching for a video, or if they're on a desktop, when you see the suggested videos on the sidebar. And so the main goal is to get people clicking on it, right? So we want to increase the chances that they're going to be clicking on it. And then as you increase that click-through rate, YouTube is going to say, oh, we're showing this to, this number of people and this percentage are clicking. So then they're going to keep feeding, sending it out to more people. So that would be the first thing I would focus on. And then the second thing, which, definitely is a priority, is I see you have your topics are really amazing. And you've got so much knowledge and information. So I would recommend starting off with SEO. So are you familiar with like TubeBuddy or vidIQ, any of the YouTube SEO software?
No.
Okay, cool. So there is another one called Morning Fame. And I can send you all of these links. The one I use right now is TubeBuddy. I'm a really big fan of TubeBuddy. It's a plugin. So
TubeBuddy or TubeBuddy or TubeBuddy?
Tube like YouTube.
Yep.
And so what you do with TubeBuddy is you're going to go in and you're going to think of a topic like, oh, I want to do, let's see what you have here, a recent video on money, value, and meaning. So you would literally start with that. You go into the keyword planner, keyword research, and you would type that in. And then TubeBuddy is going to tell you, is this a good topic
Right.
for your channel? And it's really helpful because we often we have ideas for content, and I think it's essential. Like, if you're going to be on YouTube, you've got to be able to generate lots of ideas. But in order for people to discover your channel and for YouTube to really get you up there in the search results, you want to be focusing on the SEO. And TubeBuddy will tell you, like, this is an excellent keyword for your channel. And so it might not, in other words, money, value, and meaning, that is a good topic. But then TubeBuddy will give you ideas of, like, oh, not money and value and meaning, but here's another way that you can, use this keyword. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. So it's really just a subtle shift that I find a lot of people getting started with the YouTube channel, including myself. I avoided SEO for a long time because I just was like, this is what I want to talk about. Like, I don't want to bother with that. But it really makes a difference. So once you get the SEO, you get your title, the tags don't matter so much. One other thing you can do to really start, getting more people viewing, more people subscribing, is you could look for someone to collaborate with, someone who's also building their YouTube channel, and you would make a video for their channel, about your work and the type of services you have, and then they can make a video for your channel, and then you link in the description to each other's channels, and if you can, put a graphic to link and tell people what their channel is called, and then that can be a good way. So those are the main tips that I have for you to, really start generating more views.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I will look into that software. Yeah, I think I'm ready now, because I think, like you said, for me, I gave myself time just to be continuing to practice. My fundamental work is being with clients and building the business and having, generating income, and all of that was like, okay, once that's steady and getting consistent with content, getting my ideas and articulating and getting comfortable and all those things. And now all of that's quite easy. So I feel like I have more mental space for, okay, yeah, now I really want to grow and I want to share this information. That's the other thing. I just want people to be able to benefit from it. So how do I get the message out? So it's perfect timing. I am not resistant to SEO anymore. And it was just another mental thing of like, space in my head where I have to think about this thing I don't want to think about. But that'll be great. And then the thumbnails as well. And because that's part of my problem is, you're like, oh, well, this is what I talked about. So I'll just type the words of what I talked about. And like how to formulate a really good title and stuff, I wasn't sure. So that'll be wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time to help me with that, Sarah.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you're so open-minded to it, because I think once you start to, you get TubeBuddy synced up with YouTube, it really is so easy. Like, I know I had a block that, it's probably going to take so much time. And it really is kind of fun, because then you can also sort of look at similar channels and see what other people are doing. And then you get ideas for your own channel. But yeah, it really doesn't take a lot of extra time. So
wonderful. No more. I do have a bit of resistance to extra tech load. So that is wonderful. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any other questions? before?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. So my question is, because I've got multiple types of content that go on there. I put yoga classes. So I tape the yoga classes that I do with my students. I just tape them live and I put them up there for people. And I want to start creating some shorter practices as well. So it's a bit of a blend of different, I guess this might be, maybe I'll just book a session with you because it might be a bit of a deeper question, Sarah, around sort of strategy in the content and how that affects who I talk to, because I've got yoga classes, I've got my talking head videos, I have instructional videos around using the somatic tools, and I'm kind of, settling into, I guess the simple question now is, do you think that is distracting or adds value to have those multiple things in terms of my business and my audience? That would be my primary question.
That is a really great question. And I think where you're at right now with your YouTube channel, I think it's just an experimentation stage. So it's fine. I definitely wouldn't mix too many things, but what you talked about, with the exercises and, sharing knowledge on what you do, it's not so far out. They're not totally interrelated. Like someone should not be, doing a cooking channel and doing yoga, like those are really, I mean, occasionally maybe you could do cooking. But yeah, you will start to confuse people if the topics are just way too far apart from one another. But you can start to see, what your audience is interested in. And that's really cool. Then you can start to tweak and say, oh, this video did really well. Let's make some similar videos like that and see if the audience still goes for that. So it's definitely a different approach from Instagram. There's some similarities. But the starting with the SEO, I think, is really going to lay that foundation so that, you're not spending so much time creating, because we all know how much time it can take to just create videos. And then, having to redo the strategy based on SEO. You want to just start doing it right now.
Great. Love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us from all the way across the world again.
My absolute pleasure. It was really nice to be invited. I hope that what I've shared might be of benefit to your audience as well. I hope there's something helpful in them. Helpful for them in that.
Thank you. Well, we will redirect everyone to the replay, and everyone, please check out Mira's channel and her website. I hope that this has been beneficial to you, and we'll continue the conversation. And
on and offline, I think. There's some juicy topics in there. Yeah.
Yay. All right, awesome. Mira, have a beautiful day, and thanks so much for joining.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.